Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this important legislation before the committee today, especially as we mourn the loss of our colleague, Mr. Elijah Cummings, who cared so much and worked so hard on this issue. May he rest in peace. Action to address skyrocketing prescription drug costs is long overdue, and I'm proud to be part of a committee that is tackling the issue in a meaningful way. I frequently hear from constituents about the escalating burden of paying for their medications. During our last district work period, I held 6 town hall meetings in 5 different counties across Northwest Oregon, and the issue of unaffordable drug prices came up at every single one of them. In Cornelius, Oregon, a gentleman named John held up a small tube of medication. He said he thought it was a mistake when he was asked to pay $138 out of pocket for 2 of these 30-gram tubes. Despite having robust insurance coverage, the list price for that drug was more than $250, and he was responsible for a 20% copay. John wrote to me with additional details. He said, "Why is this stuff so insanely expensive?" He wondered, is it costly to make? Is there no generic version? Is it cutting edge, brand new, needing to make back research costs? John did some research, and he found out that the ointment was patented back in 1968, and until 2014, it cost about $10 a tube. That's still the price in England. But in the United States, only one company sells the drug, and 5 years ago, the company raised its price about 4,000%. Now, John was fortunate that his situation was not life or death, and that he was not being forced to choose between life-saving medication and putting food on the table. Too many Americans are not so lucky. John concluded his letter by writing, "At what point does it get too outrageous? At what point is it too insane? At what point is it so bad that we actually decide to fix it? People are desperate and people are dying." I couldn't agree more with what John said, and that is why I'm a co-sponsor of the underlying legislation and support the amendment in the nature of a substitute which will empower the largest purchaser of prescription drugs, the federal government, to negotiate prices just like private payers, who will also benefit from these negotiations. And here's my personal story. Thank you to Representative Macbeth for sharing hers. My mother's 91 years old. She's a 2-time cancer survivor, and she has Alzheimer's and was recently diagnosed with irregular heartbeat. She was prescribed a medication, and I got a call from the pharmacy when they were filling the prescription. They said, "We just want you to know that the out-of-pocket cost for this prescription is more than $300 after payment by Medicare." Now, like Representative Macbeth, we're able to cover that cost, but what about the families who don't have an extra $300 a month to cover the cost of life-saving medication? H.R. 3 will lower out-of-pocket expenses, particularly for seniors, and will reinvest some of the hundreds of billions in dollars in savings back into developing new therapies and improving health care for all Americans. I urge my colleagues to join me in being part of this solution, and I yield back the balance of my time.